period. I will take the epidural right now, please. Their fingers and they shove it up. You need me to burp you like I do Oliver?
Yes.
Why did you have me push him with the doctor not there if you wasn't gonna let me push the baby out? I just thought like, hey, I'm pregnant. I never really thought like, hey, I'm gonna be giving birth. I guess they saw his head coming out. Oh, I was finna die. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are going to be doing my labor story time, my traumatic labor story time, honestly. For my first ever birth labor experience, this was kind of traumatic, not gonna lie. I obviously had like planned to document what I could, vlog, do a full like labor vlog, and then maybe even like the days after just show if I felt up for it. Us with a newborn, but obviously things did not pan out that way because our baby ended up going to the NICU and he ended up staying there for 35 days. So that alone was very traumatic to go through for, like I said, our first labor. Honestly, any labor experience, I feel like that would be traumatic to go through. And during that time, I didn't feel right even like picking up my camera, vlogging, doing anything. So I took a very long social media break. Even when we got home, was still on a break because I just needed time, space, and I really respect people for respecting that and all the kind DMs and comments and messages that me and my husband received. So my original labor plan was just to wait until I naturally went into labor, you know, like when the water breaks, like everyone normally does. My due date was on the 18th, and my doctor told me that basically once a week after my due date, I'll have to go in and do a no stress test, no stress test. I think that's what it's called. No stress test. Just basically to monitor me, monitor the baby, and make sure everything is still going good. And the reason why I didn't want to be induced was because I just heard like a lot of bad stories about inductions and just like how they're not natural, and a lot of people had really bad experiences. So I just wanted to wait until I went into labor naturally. So on my due date on the 18th, we went in for the NST, and honestly we didn't think much of it. Like we were just gonna go in, get monitored. I was like, there is a chance, a very slim chance, that what they see on the monitor, they'll have to induce me to go into labor, but I highly doubt that. Before my appointment, I went ahead and like packed my bags because honestly that's something that I should have been done. I literally did that on the day of my due date. That's how much I thought I was just like not gonna be going into labor anytime soon, especially because every time I went for an appointment, they just told me like, yeah, you're not dilated. It doesn't really look like he's coming anytime soon. I was like, I guess I'll just pack my bags before our appointment. Thank God I did, because when I went for my NST, they checked my blood pressure, and my blood pressure, she was high, apparently very high, to the point where I had got preeclampsia literally on my due date. I was diagnosed with that. Made it to the very end of my pregnancy. The whole time, all my checkups, never had preeclampsia. The day of my due date, when I go in, the baby was fine. Me, my blood pressure was running high, and they were like, for your safety, we're gonna have to deliver the baby. And I'm literally panicking because I was not planning on giving birth anytime soon. Well, obviously I had to give birth sometime soon, but I was not planning on giving birth that day. Maybe there was just something in my brain telling me that today's the day, and that's why I packed my bags, but I really did not think it was gonna be the day. And honestly, even when they told me like, let me call the doctor, you're probably gonna have to deliver today, I still thought that there was like a big chance that I wasn't gonna have to deliver that day. I don't know why, I just thought like, hey, I'm pregnant. I never really thought like, hey, I'm gonna be giving birth. The birth, it's gonna happen someday, but not anytime soon, even though it was my whole due date. So then I changed into my gown and they started to put in an IV. They needed to give me fluids to lower my blood pressure just to make sure I'm safe and everything. When I tell you, they stuck me 6 or 7 times. Let's pretend that I said 5 or 6 times, not 6 or 7. Anyways, they couldn't find a vein, so yeah, they had to stick me multiple times. Apparently they normally try to do it like in the wrist, something like that. Every single time they poked me, they would like lose the vein, or I don't know how it works, but they just could not find a vein, and they were just poking me all over. So finally they poke me in between my little arm crease, which is like the worst spot to have an IV because every time you move, it moves the IV and stuff, and it's very uncomfortable. But they said that's the only place where they could find the vein after poking me that many times. I had bruises all over my arms. It was terrible, and that was just the beginning of my labor story, so I was already going through it. Before getting into the rest of today's video, I would really quickly like to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Evie. As a girl with PCOS who wasn't really sure if I was able to have kids due to things like my inconsistent periods, and also as someone who knows people with fertility issues, I know how frustrating dealing with that can be. The vaginal microbiome is rarely included in traditional fertility testing, but research suggests that it may actually play a role in fertility and pregnancy outcomes. Evie is a great way to look into getting this tested. Evie is an at-home vaginal microbiome testing and clinical care platform designed to help women finally get answers about their vaginal health. With just a single at-home swab, Evie screens for 700 plus bacteria and fungi, including microbes associated with vaginal discomfort like odor and discharge, recurrent BV, UTIs, fertility-related microbiome patterns, and microbiome shifts in premenopause and menopause. Some insights they can give you on fertility are things like your level of protective bacteria, your microbiome diversity score, and you can also add on optional STI testing, which can be linked to infertility and pregnancy complications. And when your results are ready, they don't just give you the information they collect. If eligible, your vaginal microbiome results and health history are reviewed by a licensed Evie affiliated clinician, and they're going to design you a custom prescription treatment program. Every test includes a clear plan with all your next steps and a free one-on-one call with a certified health coach, and they'll help you understand your results. I'm gonna link Evie down below in my description. Feel free to use my code sierra.ann 10 for 10% off your first purchase up to $25. Thank you again, Evie, for sponsoring today's video. Also, I forgot to mention, because I didn't think I would be going into labor that day, me and Kevin ate at breakfast time. I think I went in at like 5 p.m. Just know I went late in the day and all me and Kevin had was breakfast. So I was starving and I just planned on going to get food after the appointment like we always do. That is definitely something that I regret. Then they put monitors on my stomach and gave me the IV, everything like that. I was really anxious just like listening to the monitors, because on the monitors you can actually hear the baby's heartbeat, but it's not like super loud. And also, if the monitors slide off of your stomach or like move in like a weird way, the baby's off the monitor, and it's terrifying because you think that the baby's heart rate stopped, but like really the monitor just moved. So that's also very overwhelming. But things honestly at that point still didn't even feel real. I was just like, I'm not going into labor today. Like, they're gonna cancel this. They're gonna be like, it's okay, you don't have to go into labor today. I asked them, I was like, well, we did bring our hospital bags, so should my husband go get them out the car? They're like, yes, you should. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually happening. I also have notes written in my phone because most of this labor experience was a blur to me. I was very drowsy, loopy, sleepy throughout the whole thing. So I had to make kind of like a script for this video, at least for the hospital stay experience. Everything else I didn't really map out, but I was so loopy. It took me like a whole day to write this, and there's probably still stuff that I forgot. Not to mention, it's been almost 3 months since I was at the hospital giving birth. Like I said, it was a very hectic experience afterwards, so I didn't really feel right filming a video talking about my birth experience when I was just going through it. I was in the trenches. So yeah, I was pretty nervous because like I'm a first-time mom. I've never really been close to anyone who gave birth. Like, no one's ever really told me their full experience, so I had no clue what to expect. The nurse checked me, and if you don't know what checking means, they're basically checking to see if you're dilated, but they take their fingers and they shove it up down there, and it's very uncomfortable. But it was even worse because my nurse, I'm not even gonna lie, she almost made me cry because I felt like she was being kind of mean to me. My husband kind of agreed. Like, he said, yeah, I did not like the way she was acting because I'm already emotional. I'm going through this experience, and when she was checking me, like I said, it's very uncomfortable. So I'm reacting. Obviously, I can't help if my legs like go together, you know, because I mean, somebody's forcefully shoving their hands up you. So that might sound TMI, but that's what they're doing. She was like, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna wait for you to stop moving your legs. I feel like she wasn't being very understanding about the fact that like I could not help if my reflexes moved my legs back together. Like, it was so painful when she was checking. I would get checked in my appointments and they were nowhere near as painful as this being checked. So I feel like she wasn't very validating in my feelings, and she was just annoyed at the fact that it was painful for me and my natural reflexes were making me like tense up. I definitely almost cried, but I did not want to embarrass myself, so I didn't cry. So that's really good. Throughout the night, they were giving me these pills. Again, more shoving into my vagina, basically. Let's just use the real words here. We're all adults, but they would shove the pills up there, and It was supposed to loosen my cervix, I believe. I don't know all the terms. I am not a medical professional. Every hour they would shove the pill up there and then check to see how dilated I was. And every time they would check, I was not dilated at all. Still nothing. And for the next 4 to 5 hours, they would just do the same process. Check me, insert the pill. It was very painful. All of that for nothing because as far as I'm aware, I don't think it really did anything. I remember bleeding, but I don't remember at what point in this process I started to bleed. I don't know if this was from the pills or I really don't know. I was so drowsy and out of it. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember being very sleepy, sleeping throughout the night, but also the bed was very, very uncomfortable, so it was hard for me to sleep. I tried turning on my side. No matter how I turned, the monitors would come off of the baby, so then the nurse would come into the room and readjust the monitors, tell me to lay this way, tell me to lay that way. So yeah, it was just very uncomfortable. I mean, you're in labor, so of course it's uncomfortable, but I did not expect it to be this uncomfortable just trying to sleep. Not to mention, I was still obviously pregnant at this point, so I had to pee every 5 minutes. Like, that was the most annoying part about being pregnant, is in the middle of the night having to go pee 4, 5, 6 times in one night. So that didn't change just because I was at the hospital. So every time I had to get up and pee, I had to wheel around this thing with all of my IVs and monitors and all that stuff on it. It was very hard. I also had to pee into this little cup and had to count how much pee and all that. Yeah, it was definitely, it was an experience. I think around 4 a.m. they were done doing the pills, and finally they gave me Pitocin, which is something to, I guess, speed up the labor process when being induced and go ahead and start giving you contractions and put you into labor, I guess. When they did this, I had contractions almost instantly and they were very, very painful. I did tell the nurse and she just kept saying, let me know when you want your epidural. Let me know when you want your epidural. All the stories that I heard with the epidural, people told me that like you need to wait closer towards the end of the process because if you get it too early, you will feel everything during the actual labor. So I was scared to go ahead and get my epidural because I was nowhere near being 10 centimeters dilated. I wasn't really sure what to do. Even though I was feeling pain, I was like, maybe I should hold off. So I told my nurse, if I get it now, does that mean later the effects will be worn off? And she said that shouldn't be an issue and they can, I guess, give me like extra doses or up the epidural or however it works if needed. So I was like, okay, period. I will take the epidural right now, please, because I was in a lot of pain. Well, of course, when I was ready for my epidural, the person that does the epidurals happened to be assisting with a C-section, so I had to wait, and it was a while. So she went ahead and gave me some type of pain medicine, and I was just thinking, pain medicine, Tylenol, maybe something a little stronger. No, they actually gave me the good stuff. Like, when I tell you, they gave me this medication and instantly I felt drowsy. I started falling asleep while the nurse was still in the room. The nurse was in there checking stuff, hanging stuff, doing stuff, whatever she was doing. I was in and out of sleep while she was doing that. Like, that's how much this medicine hit me. I want to say I was knocked out within 5 minutes. After that, I just remember fading in and out of sleep. You know, people come in and out of the room, and eventually it was morning time and it was time for the epidural. So with the epidural, anyone who is with you has to leave the room. The only person there was Kevin. He had to leave the room while I was getting the epidural, and I was really nervous because I know a lot of people say the worst part of labor is getting the epidural and how painful it is, and I was terrified. But also in the back of my head, I'm like, it can't be that bad. It's just like a shot, right? Well, it's not a shot. I wouldn't say it's painful. It's just really weird feeling, uncomfortable. They take a needle and they're literally poking you and you can feel it in your spine. It's a very weird feeling, but also I would not say that that was the worst part. I would say what happened next would probably be one of the worst parts of labor for me. Once they were done doing the epidural, I was able to lay back in bed and they told me to text Kevin, let him know he can come back into the room. I wasn't even halfway done with the text that I was sending to Kevin, and all of a sudden the medicine just all hit me at once. And I don't even know how to explain this feeling. I couldn't even hold my phone up anymore. In the middle of texting him, I couldn't send the text. I put my phone down. I felt like I started to fade in and out. I threw up, which is crazy for me because during the whole pregnancy, I did not throw up. I don't think once. With morning sickness, I may have gagged, never threw up. I'm not really a person who throws up unless they're sick from like the flu. So I threw up, which was really weird for me. And I felt like I was about to pass out, and I was telling them, but also I could barely talk. Also, like I mentioned, we did not eat since the morning before. So when I threw up, it was just water, and it was the nastiest thing ever. If I'm being completely honest, it was gross. The taste in my mouth, ugh. And it turns out apparently my blood pressure, even though it was very high, and that's the reason why I was having to be induced, once the epidural hit, my blood pressure dropped. So it's really weird to go from a really high blood pressure to a very low blood pressure. I felt like death, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought I was finna die. I really did. They ended up having to give me some medication through my IV to raise my blood pressure, which is insane that I went from having a high blood pressure to a low blood pressure, getting low blood pressure medication to high blood pressure medication. Yeah, that was the worst feeling I have ever felt in my life. I'm actually kind of glad that Kevin was not in the room, because I know he probably would have been like freaking out. The way that I looked had to be terrible, because the way that I felt, I couldn't even stay awake. After they got me feeling better, I was able to text Kevin and let him know that he could come back into the room. I didn't end up throwing up or anything anymore. I felt better since they gave me the medication. They did put in a catheter because I couldn't get up once I got the epidural, because once you get the epidural, your legs are completely numb. Like, you can't walk, you can't really even move yourself. They have to like maneuver you and move you around in the bed if they want you to move. If you start sliding down, they have to pick up your covers and slide you back up in the bed. As someone who used to be a patient care tech, I know a lot about that, but it felt really weird being the person in the bed having to be slid up. So they inserted a catheter because I couldn't get up and go to the restroom, which just collects your urine. That's the first time I think I've ever had a catheter inserted. Again, I used to be a patient care tech. I used to empty catheters, so it was really weird being on the other end of that. And for the rest of the day, I pretty much just slept. Like I said, I think it was maybe 6 a.m. when they put in the epidural. I got a new nurse at 7 a.m. and she was nice. All I remember was just sleeping all day, and she would come in and do the checks. I would be just halfway awake. I'm just like, oh, whatever. I felt no pain, and I'm pretty sure it's just because the epidural. I didn't feel anything much from the waist down, so she'd just do the checks. I'd be like, oh, I'm this much dilated, okay, cool, and I would just go back to sleep. Again, it was still really uncomfortable, but I think it did get more comfortable since I had the epidural, since I didn't really feel much. The bed wasn't as bad as it was, but each time she did check me, I was getting more and more dilated. Usually if you're 10 centimeters dilated, that means that it's time to push, and each time she would check, it would just be like 1 centimeter more or half a centimeter more. Kevin was asleep on the sofa the whole time. I told him to eat, but he refused, so we were both just hungry. Also, after I got the epidural, I wasn't allowed to drink any water, so I just had to have ice chips. So not only was I hungry, I was thirsty, and because I was so thirsty, my lips were chapped. I was going through it. Like, I just felt terrible. Nobody talks about how ugly the full labor process is when it's drawn out like that, especially when you can't have water, because food is one thing, but water, I'm a person who drinks water 24/7. I always, like, my water bottle's right here. I keep my water bottle beside me all the time. I do remember being mid-afternoon. Again, I didn't even have my phone near me that much. I think my phone was like on a table beside me, but I was too out of it to even look at my phone. So I just remember it being mid-afternoon, and I started to feel some of the contractions come back, and I told my nurse, and they were able to give me an extra dose, or however it works, of epidural. That time I didn't feel it, so thankfully it didn't make me feel like I was gonna pass out. I was really worried about that. And once I started to get more and more dilated, they put a peanut ball in between my legs. They also had to put a pad on top of the peanut ball because obviously it's birth. Like, you're bleeding, there's liquids. So they had to put a pad, and then they put the peanut ball under my legs. It's so funny because they literally had to shove the peanut ball like wherever they wanted it. They were just turning me in different positions. I guess that helps me get more dilated. I don't know, but they were just putting like a little wedge under me. They were turning me this way, turning me that way. Again, I couldn't move myself, so they were just flipping me all different types of way on this peanut ball. And it was so funny because I was just like, whatever, I'm half asleep, half awake. Turn me however, just get this baby out. That's literally my mindset. Finally, we hit 10 centimeters and it was time to start pushing. I feel like that came really quickly. Just know in real life, it took hours to get to that point. It may sound like it didn't take that long, but it took a very long time. They said that they were gonna call the doctor. They said that the doctor was 10 minutes away and that they're gonna go ahead and get me to start pushing, and she'll come once they start seeing, I don't know, like the baby's head come out, which is kind of crazy because it's just like, shouldn't the doctor be here when I start pushing? To be fair, I know a lot of people take a while for the baby to push out. But is that not crazy for your doctor not to be there right when you start pushing? I don't know if that's normal. Anyone else who has given birth, let me know if this whole process is normal, because I'm about to tell you what happened and I feel like this isn't normal. So basically when I start pushing, it's just my nurse who has been with me all day. I think it was her. Or maybe it was a 7, I don't remember. It might have been the shift change and maybe the new nurse, I don't remember. But I just know there was a nurse and it was my nurse and she was in there with me and she was teaching me how to push. So basically she was saying like, we're gonna breathe. I can't even remember how it works, but I just know take the breaths here and then do a big push at the end anytime you feel a contraction. They also had to lower my epidural so that I could feel the contractions, because apparently you're supposed to push when you feel a contraction. And if you have the epidural too strong, then you won't feel it. And just know, it was very, very uncomfortable when they lowered the epidural. I felt all the contractions. I mean, it was probably more than likely still not as painful as it would be without the epidural, but it was very painful. So yeah, she was teaching me how pushing works, and she gave me like, I don't even remember what it was, like a blanket, a towel, something to grip onto. She was like, if you do this, you know, it might be easier to push. We were playing like tug of war with it. I was like, you know, pushing, pulling, yeah, I was doing that. I was so out of it. I just remember pushing, and then more and more people just kept coming into the room, if I recall. And eventually I guess they saw his head coming out. I don't know, but I guess they saw his head coming out because they were like, oh, stop, stop, stop. They told me to stop pushing. This is the part that I'm not sure is normal, because every person that I've told was like, that does not seem normal at all. But they told me to stop pushing and they're gonna call the doctor. I'm pretty sure he was about to push out. I had my legs on these, what are they? I don't know what they are, but they hold your legs apart. Kind of like when you go to the gynecologist and you have to get your check, your legs are on the metal things and they're spread apart. My legs was like that. They made me take my leg down and close my legs and wait for the doctor. So I had to wait 10 minutes while in the middle of labor, while feeling contractions, being in so much pain. I can't even describe the type of pain that I felt waiting 10 minutes for the doctor to get there. I wanted to yell like, why didn't someone call her sooner and just get her to come out here when I started pushing? That made me actually so mad because I was in so much pain. Finally, 10 minutes later, the doctor gets there. They're like, okay, you can push again now. Why did you have me pushing with the doctor not there if you wasn't gonna let me push the baby out? Like, what are we doing? Anyways, the doctor gets there. Probably after about 5 minutes, the baby comes out. I pushed and here comes Oliver. It's weird because like I would think the most painful part of labor would be actually pushing out the baby, feeling the baby come out, but I just felt a little like a slip, like he slipped out. I just felt it and it didn't feel painful, and I was like, it was a very happy moment. The whole labor process again was uncomfortable with the pushes and everything like that because my mouth was so dry. You know, like when your mouth's so dry, you feel like you can't talk, you can't do anything. I felt like I couldn't even do the breaths that I needed to do during labor because my mouth was so dry. But I pushed him out at 7:45 p.m. and he was 8 pounds 14 ounces. So according to everyone around, he was a very big baby. Even now, he's a pretty big baby. Also, this will probably be relevant later, but as soon as he came out, they were like, yeah, he did poop. I guess right when he came out, I don't know how that works, but they said that he pooped. They were cleaning him off. They were suctioning everything like out of his mouth, his nose. Kevin cut the umbilical cord. Then we started to do skin to skin. Again, this was 3 months ago, so I'm trying to remember this the best way I can. While we were doing skin to skin, the doctor was stitching me up because I did tear down there. It makes sense because he was a huge baby. She noticed that I actually was feeling while she was stitching me up, and she was like, do you feel that? I'm like, yeah. She's like, let's up the epidural because you're not, I guess I wasn't supposed to feel that. So they upped the epidural, but then I started feeling lightheaded again, just as whenever I first got the epidural. Started feeling really, really sick while holding the baby. So they gave me that pain medicine and I guess blood pressure medicine again. And because they gave me that pain medicine, I started to feel like I was gonna pass out again. I was in and out of it. They were talking to me. I was responsive, but I was really sleepy and out of it. Oliver, I was still holding him, but they went ahead and gave him to Kevin for the time being because I was in and out of it. And I was like, yeah, I think it's best if Kevin just holds him for now, which I guess was a really good thing because as I mentioned, we end up going to the NICU pretty shortly afterwards. So I'm glad Kevin was able to have his moment with Oliver. I got to hold him for a while. I'm glad that he did too. After things settled down, more people left the room. You know, I started to feel better. They were getting his measurements, his weight, his footprint, everything like that. And we were just trying to soak up all the time that we had with him. I was finally able to hold him again. So everything was going well at this point. Also, again, me and Kevin did not have food since the morning before, and at that point it was very late in the day. But also Kevin didn't want to leave the hospital. Like, we just had a baby. The cafeteria was closed, everything was closed. I ended up calling my cousin and she was like, yes, of course I'll go and get y'all some food. So my cousin brings us some food. She was able to meet Oliver. She hung out for not long, just a little bit. Once she left, a nurse came in. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, we ended up moving from labor and delivery to where you go once you have the baby. Once my cousin left, it was just me and Kevin, and our nurse comes in and she is like, oh, he might be hungry. So she was gonna help me learn how to breastfeed. From the beginning, I always wanted to at least try to breastfeed. She was helping me with the positioning. She was trying to help him latch on, but if I recall, he was just really tired. So she was like, oh yeah, he might just be sleepy because he wasn't latching on. She took him and she swaddled him. Me and Kevin noticed he was breathing really heavy, and I was like, is that normal? His breathing did not sound normal at all. It was very loud. But again, this is my first baby. I've never really been around a newborn like that. I didn't know if it was normal or not, but I was just like, yeah, that does not sound right. So I mentioned it to her. She unswaddles him. She checks his oxygen levels. And if you recall, I mentioned that he pooped during the labor. So apparently when that happens, sometimes they inhale some of the poop, and I guess it's called meconium. So he inhaled some of that, and they were like, oh, that's normal for babies when that happens. You just have to keep suctioning their mouth and their nose. So she re-swaddled him up, and she's about to leave the room and just let him sleep in the room with us. But again, he was just very loud with his breathing. So I mentioned again, I'm just like, I don't know, that just doesn't sound right. She said that they were gonna go ahead and bring him to the nursery and they'll monitor him for 2 hours just to make sure that everything was okay. But she thinks everything's gonna be fine. And I guess, you know, it's normal for babies that go through that. So judging by her response, we just thought everything would be okay. She didn't seem worried at all. During that 2 hours, we were just like, okay, we're just gonna go to sleep, get some rest. Cause again, I was on a lot of medication and that medication made me very tired. Also, I just pushed out a whole baby. I was extremely tired. During the 2 hours, I was like, I'll just sleep and then we'll hear something after 2 hours. My tech came in the room, and when she came in, I happened to ask her, I'm like, is everything okay with Oliver? And she said I can call down to the nursery. So I did that, and they said someone would be in the room to talk to me in a minute. So I was kind of worried because usually if someone's coming to talk to you in person, like normally they would just tell you everything looks okay, we'll bring him to your room in a minute. But they said that they were going to come down and talk to us. And when they did, they said that his breathing did look a little irregular. So they were going to monitor him a little bit longer. That's when I was definitely starting to worry, me and Kevin both, a little more. But I don't know. I was just thinking, like, what are the odds something like this would happen to us? So I was just still trying to remain positive in a way. And I was like, oh, it's nothing serious. I ended up falling back asleep, just waiting for a response. And all I remember was waking up and there's a nurse standing in front of me talking. Kevin remembered this conversation because I don't remember a single thing that she was really saying, because she woke me up dead asleep, had no clue what was going on. And I just remember waking up and being like, what? Like, what is going on? Kevin said I was not responding to her, but she was just asking what was our baby's name. I was so woozy, I had no clue what was going on. And when she came in, she pretty much told us that Oliver was not doing any better and that he was gonna have to be transported to Birmingham. They have a little bit more, like, bigger hospitals. It's a bigger city, but it's also an hour and a half away from where we live. And we knew that that was a big deal because going to Birmingham, like, that's scary. We still didn't really know how serious it was. Obviously, we were worried about it. Is this something minor, major? Are we gonna be in the hospital for a few days? What is going on? We had no clue, but they just said that they would come back to the room soon so that we could say goodbye to him while he's being transported. We didn't even get a full hour in the room with him by ourselves before, you know, everything happened. So this was very overwhelming.
I got a burp. Wait, hold up.
Do you need me to burp you like I do Oliver?
Yes. I guess not coming out now.
Okay, we have Kevin in here to finish off the rest of the story because a lot of the experience he experienced and like we went through it together. So I just felt like it was right to have him in here for the rest of the story. Also, Oliver is sleeping right now. We have him on the baby camera. We went to go see Oliver. We took some photos. He was kind of just out of it. It was kind of scary to look at, seeing him just, you know, laying on the bed, being out of it. I think at that point, did they give him sedation medication already?
Yeah, I think they had to. He was like knocked out. That was like devastating. After that, I was debating if I should follow the truck to the hospital or stay with Sierra, but I decided to stay with her.
After that, we pretty much could not sleep. We were also there in the same car, so like it didn't really seem logical for Kevin just to leave by himself, drive an hour and 30 minutes away. We just talked about what we should do, and we talked to a few different family members. My cousin ended up just driving him to the hospital in the morning, and I ended up staying at the hospital, and I was just like, hopefully I can beg the doctor to release me, even though it was really hard because I had preeclampsia and she needed to monitor my blood pressure, and also I was bleeding a lot more than she would have liked. That was the longest we were separated during the whole process, and that was whenever Kevin went to the hospital and I had to stay at the hospital.
When we got there, we went to the NICU area, went in there. He was just sitting in the bed and had all the stuff over him, the wires, all the medication stuff and all that, and it was just that was the worst feeling ever, honestly.
Kevin called me and I was with one of my family members. She came to stay with me so I wouldn't be alone at the hospital. I just remember him calling me and he was breaking down. It was so sad. I couldn't do anything because I was, you know, an hour and 30 minutes away at the hospital, stuck there until I could get discharged. So that was really tough to deal with, and he was just on the phone crying, and it was making me really sad. But also, I'm that person who doesn't really like showing my emotions in front of people, and I was with a family member, so I was trying not to cry. And yeah, it was very tough because we're always together. Like, it's really hard for us to be separated. Yeah, it did not help that we were not together during that time. But from my POV, I was at the hospital. I was trying to do everything that I could to show that I was strong enough to be discharged. I got up, I took a shower, I ate a little bit of food, and I was just really trying to show that I was strong so that the doctor could discharge me. Finally, she came. She said she didn't feel super comfortable about it, but she understands, you know, with my baby not being with me and how I want to be with him. So she discharged me. She told me to get a blood pressure cuff, keep track of my blood pressure, and when at the hospital, try to get in a wheelchair, don't do a lot of walking. Whenever I had finally got discharged, we loaded everything up in the car, and my aunt went ahead and took me to Birmingham so I could be with Kevin and the baby. When I got to the hospital was huge. I wasn't really a big fan of it. The parking was weird. Kevin had already been there, so you know, he was in the room. He already met the nurses. So when I got there, I don't know, I felt very out of place at this hospital. I'm not gonna lie. It was really weird because they didn't even have a place where I could sit in the room with the baby. They had a desk chair that they like wheeled into the room, and when I sat on it, I couldn't really even sit down on it because of my stitches, so I couldn't even sit in the room with the baby. It was terrible. But when I first walked in, me and Kevin, we saw each other. I went back and I saw Oliver. I was about to cry. Again, I don't like being emotional in front of people. I think my eyes was like watering, but I was really trying to hide it because I don't know, I just like to put up a front like I'm just one of those tough people, and I just don't like crying in front of people. If you know what an oscillator is, that's what he was connected to. It was moving his chest for him and it was breathing for him, so his chest was just like lifting, then going back down, lifting, going back down, and it was so scary. It was going
rapidly too, remember?
Yes, it was bad, and he didn't really have any color. He was turning gray almost, and it was the scariest thing. It was hard not to break down, but there were so many people around. We weren't even in a private area to where we could talk or anything like that. Yeah, I didn't really feel comfortable at this hospital. It was really tough. Not to mention, only 2 people could go back at once to see him and stand in the room, basically. We just had to stand there. Our family had to wait outside. His oxygen was as low as mid-60s, which is really, really bad. Technically, his oxygen should should be 100. If anything, mid 90s is the lowest it really should be. So seeing that his oxygen was 60 was very concerning. The machine was just not doing the breathing that it needed to do. So we were there not long at all, and they informed us that they were gonna have to transport him again to another hospital that's a little bit further into the city because they had a machine that is basically gonna be his last resort, and this is the ECMO machine. It's life support, and they told us that it was his last resort. That's pretty much how they worded it. Sorry, it's really hard to film this video because, you know, we got a baby. So he's moving around right now. Kevin's about to go give him his passy. They told us in person that he was gonna be transported, and the nurse, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like she could have done it in a much better way. Basically, I had a lactation consultant help me in this room. He was trying to teach me how to pump. So my boobs was literally exposed to the world, and she comes in there to tell us that he's not doing good and he's gonna have to be transferred to another hospital. Tell us basically devastating news that this is gonna be his last resort, all of these things, while I'm literally sitting there for the first time ever pumping with my boobs out. I'm feeling the worst contractions ever because I don't know if you know, but like when you pump, you get contractions. Also, it did not help. She literally kept looking down at my boobs, then looking at my face. Like,
you said that, yeah.
Yes, did you see her?
Kind of, yeah, I think
Oh
so.
my gosh, she was literally making eye contact with me, then she would look down at my boobs, then make eye contact with me. Like, girl, stop looking at my boobs when you're telling me that my baby is being, oh my gosh.
Basically, they were telling us that he was fighting with the machine. That's why he didn't get transferred. That's why his oxygen was in the 60s, because like he was fighting with the machine. The machine was trying to do the breathing for him, but
he was breathing over.
Yeah, he was like fighting it. And I think they said that they're trying to put medication on him to sedate him. And she said if that don't work, they might have to transfer him. And I guess it didn't work. Like he was still fighting it.
Basically, the only other option was going to be this ECMO. When we found that out, like we both like broke down. Yeah. We were both crying. Like we did not know what to do. Thankfully, we had like a private room that they were going to let us stay in at this hospital, but we ended up having to not be at this hospital. We just like broke down, both of us together.
I remember asking her, is this a common thing to have the babies? And she even said that it was kind of rare.
And so that just like scared us to the point where we don't know what's going to happen, especially when this is a rare condition that doesn't normally happen. And basically the way that people were describing it, they still don't know for sure, but it's possible that this happened because he inhaled the meconium, which is basically his own poop during labor or at some point. His lungs just were very sick and they weren't ready to do all the breathing by themselves. So he needed help of a machine. ECMO is very invasive. Like it's literally a hole in his neck. He still has a scar to this day.
It was like surgery too that they do on him.
Yeah, a very serious surgery.
They need consent.
They had to call us and they had to get verbal consent from us. So we knew it was very serious. So again, we're just breaking down. We're at the hospital. We can't even find out where to go. Again, we're breaking down. We call the people trying to figure out where to park. I'm literally crying on the phone with these people trying to figure out where we need to park, where we need to go. Also, the hospital that we were at first, I wasn't a big fan of it, but they did have like wheelchairs near the door for patients. So that was very helpful considering there was a lot of walking. When we got to the children's hospital, this is a hospital for children. So they didn't have adult sized wheelchairs just sitting around. So when we finally figure out where to go, we get to the front desk. First of all, we have to take a picture for our ID and we're both, we look a mess. I was crying. My eyes like, oh my gosh, yes, they were puffy. I was rubbing my eyes all day. Kevin looked a mess. We both just looked terrible.
Rightfully so.
And the lady at the front desk, oh my gosh. Kevin is the one, he was like insistent, like you need a wheelchair. I thought I was fine. I was postpartum. I was running off of adrenaline. So I felt like I could walk everywhere. But Kevin was like, you need a wheelchair, remember? So I asked the woman, like, do y'all have any wheelchairs that I can use? Is it a long walk to the NICU? What did she say? You say it.
Like basically, I think you asked for the wheelchair also, but also you said is it a long walk to the NICU because...
Yeah, I said I gave birth.
Like 2 hours ago, right?
Yes! Oliver keeps spitting out his pacifier. Kevin will be back.
Basically, she asked her, is it a long walk because she gave birth 12 hours ago. She said that, and she mentioned that your doctor even said that you shouldn't be walking that much. And this woman literally said, well, it's not a far walk for me, but I'm an active person, so... Like what?
What? It's not a long walk, but I'm an active person. Like, I was pregnant 12 hours ago. Can you cut me some slack? Like
that's what made me more mad, because it's not like you didn't mention none of that. Like she literally mentioned like,
yes.
Wow. She knew what was going on.
Yes, she knew that we were going to the NICU. We had to get parent badges. She knew that that was our baby in the NICU. The way she said it too was so stuck up. She was just like, it's not a long walk for me, but I'm active.
The answer didn't even benefit no one. Like I don't get that. Honestly.
Did I cry more after that? I probably did. I would not be surprised.
You're just mad with them.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't even cry after. I was just pissed. Finally, we made it up to the freaking floor, and we couldn't even see our son because he's getting the surgery done.
Yeah.
And at this point, like, I was literally crying nonstop. Like, I could not settle down. I was worried. I was thinking the worst. I'm not even gonna lie. Until we finally had the head nurse. She came to talk to us.
She was the first person we saw when we went to the door. She came back saying that they're in the process of it. That's when Sierra started crying. I had to hug her. She looked so sad looking at us, the nurse. And I was like,
really?
yeah, I was like, yeah, we had a long day. And she, yeah, I know. And like, she just stopped being nice to us and all that.
Yeah, but she made me feel so much better. She was like, yes, we see people on ECMO, not super often, but I mean, it's not as rare as they made it seem. She said that there was someone who was on ECMO so many, days ago, and they made it off, and that made us feel better. She was just basically telling us about success stories on ECMO, what the machine does.
She had a more optimistic.
Yes, she was the only person that I talked to who actually seemed everything will be fine.
She being honest, but also just being really like optimistic about it. And, like,
yes, most people were just blunt. They were just using words like last resort. Yeah. He's very sick. Just things as if he was not going to make a recovery. And she's the first person that I talked to who actually gave me some type of hope that we were gonna make it through. Like, this.
It wasn't false hope or anything. It was like realistic hope.
She made it seem like it is gonna be a long process. He is very sick, but kids on ECMO. This is not the end of the line.
The main thing she said that made us feel better was, you mentioned the last resort thing, and she said it is the last resort, but it's the best resort. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I was about to say that. Even though the next few days were very hard, he was on the ECMO for 4 days. Those were like the longest 4 days probably of our life. We couldn't go home, but they also have like a Ronald McDonald house, but we had to be accepted into that, and it was just really hard to find a place to stay that was nearby, because again, it's like an hour and 30 minutes out, and it was 10 p.m., 11 p.m. So we couldn't go home. You know what we decide to do? We look up hotels near me, and we find the freaking Hilton. It looks nice. This is how much it is per night. Literally all we did was sleep there. We woke up and went straight to the hospital. When I tell you, we went to the front desk, you could tell I've been crying all night. Kevin had to pay for parking. He's like, oh, is one of your family or someone in the hospital nearby? And I was like, yes, they are. So they were able to give a little discount for that. I asked for a room, a single room. Tell me why they booked me a double room. I go upstairs. I can barely walk, by the way, because I just had an epidural. My back was hurting so much. Like, I was in so much pain. I go upstairs. Kevin's still dealing with the parking. Use the card, go into the room. There's 2 beds. I go all the way back downstairs. I'm like, so I booked a king. I didn't book 2 queens. I was very polite about it because, no matter what I'm going through, I'm not gonna take it out on somebody else, So I went down there. I'm like, there's been a mistake. Oliver is crying again. He probably wants a bottle, so Kevin's gonna go give him a bottle while I finish off the story. So I think the room ended up being like $300 something just for us to sleep in it overnight. It's whatever. But I tell him, I'm like, you booked me the wrong room. So he's like, okay, I'll switch it. He said, just so you know, your room is one of our, I don't know what the word is. It's just like a better room. It has more accommodations, things like that. It's one of our better rooms. The room that you're getting is a downgrade. The one with the 1 bed. So I'm thinking, I don't care. I just don't want to spend almost $400 for a room to sleep in overnight. I don't care if it's a downgrade. I'm sleeping in 1 bed with my husband. So he's just like, okay, just so you know, it's a downgrade. So I'm thinking I'm at least getting some money back. He changes it from a queen to a king. He's like, here's your new room card. How much of a refund did it give me? He said, the rooms are the same price. The rooms are the same price. I don't know. That just was the cherry on top of every single thing that happened that whole day. I called Kevin. I told him I was just so annoyed. And when he came to the room, I literally just broke down. He broke down. We both just cried and cried and cried. We just laid in the bed. We just cried. The hospital said we can call at any time. We called in the middle of the night when we woke up. We called multiple times just to like see how he was doing. Everything was going okay. And it didn't help that I am also postpartum and I gave birth naturally. So, I mean, I'm sure with a C-section that would probably be even tougher because that's a full-on surgery, but giving birth naturally, I was bleeding constantly. It was uncomfortable when I used the restroom, so that was very irritating. I was away from home. I couldn't even be in the comfort of my own home recovering. Everything we were going through, I just broke down and cried so much. The next day I woke up, I'm sharing these photos. I was so embarrassed. I didn't even want to go to the hospital. I'm sharing these photos because I am no longer in this place and I just want y'all to know how bad I was going through it. This is what I looked like in the morning, which made me cry even more. My eyes were swollen shut when I woke up. Finally, I was able to wipe them out, clean them out, and they were still swollen all over. I was crying to Kevin because my eyes were swollen and I could not, I just kept wiping them. They were swollen and I was crying. It was making me cry even more just looking in the mirror with everything we had going on top of how my eyes looked. I just kept crying. I could not stop crying. I was postpartum. I was using the restroom. I was crying because I couldn't even freaking pee comfortably. This was literally the worst, most traumatizing moment of my life. I'm literally sitting there just worried that my baby is not going to make it out and I just want to go see him, but I feel so embarrassed to go see him because my eyes are swollen shut. I feel like I need glasses just to go out in public. The headspace that I was in during this time was the worst headspace I have ever been in. Finally, Kevin's like, it's not that bad. It was that bad. It was really that bad. My eyes were swollen all over. His family actually came up to see us that day, so I couldn't just like leave them at the hospital and I didn't want to leave Oliver with no one there. The room that he was in didn't have a couch, didn't have anything. It had one single recliner, so we couldn't stay overnight. The ECMO rooms are different than the regular NICU rooms. Kevin ended up talking me into it. He's like, you look perfectly fine. He was just like kissing me, hugging me, but like I felt terrible and we went to the hospital and you know what, when I saw Oliver, I felt, obviously seeing him like that was not great, but I felt a little better when I saw him. He looked so much better than when he was on the oscillator, other than the fact that he was so swollen, and that was because he was on a lot of fluids and things like that. But when I saw him, I was like, oh my god, we have matching eyes right now. His eyes were swollen like mine, and I don't know why, just seeing that, I was just like, are my eyes swollen because his eyes are swollen? Is this like a mother thing? Was it because I was on fluids? Like, what is going on? But we literally had matching swollen eyes, which is not a good thing, but I don't know why. It just seeing him, and also just the fact that he looked better even though he was on ECMO and it was really scary, but he actually started to have some of his color back. He didn't look gray. He wasn't on a machine that was like lifting his chest. I mean, obviously just seeing your baby, the baby that you just carried for 9 months and just birthed, obviously that could already make you feel better. I didn't even care about my eyes at that point. Like, I was still very embarrassed about it because we had to see so many people. Like, when your baby's in the hospital, you have to go to the front desk, you have to go up there, you have 2 nurses in his room 24/7 when he was on ECMO. I definitely had to be around people, even though I didn't feel like being around anyone, because me and Kevin were just very much introverted, but this definitely took us out of our shell. We had to learn how to interact with people. We had to be comfortable being uncomfortable and being around people. But yeah, that was the full day after giving birth. If you want to watch my labor vlog, I kind of talk a little bit more about everything that happened after that point, but that is pretty much my labor and like 24 hours after my labor process. It was just very traumatic for me, being that this is my first baby. We stayed in the NICU for 35 days. The labor experience itself was not bad at all. I will say the recovery and just like going to the restroom, things like that, was very, very uncomfortable, and it was very painful for days and days after. And it didn't help that I was literally stuck using public hospital restrooms. After I gave birth, I literally said, I will never be having another kid ever again in my life. We'll see how that goes. Now Oliver is home with us, and you know, we're soaking up all the moments that we can get while he's still this little. And even when he got home, I was like, yeah, never having another baby. This is a lot. But now that he's getting older, I'm like, I don't know, maybe one day. But at the same time, this whole experience kind of just scarred me. What if we have another NICU visit? I'm gonna be worried. I barely even felt comfortable getting through the whole pregnancy because I was constantly worried that we're just gonna go to an appointment one day and not hear a heartbeat. I'm somebody with very serious anxiety. I always worry about the worst thing that could happen, and the worst thing that could happen happened. I mean, I guess it's not the worst thing, but it was pretty bad. And also throughout the whole process, I felt so sad for what our baby was going through. I felt so sad that we were kind of robbed of like a normal labor experience. Also felt very guilty that like I wasn't at my full strength, which nobody expected me to be, but I felt bad that I just like wanted to rest. And like, you shouldn't feel bad for wanting to rest after giving birth, but at the same time, I kind of felt that way because I was just like, I should be at the hospital. I should be up there 24/7 doing this, doing that. Yeah, I just felt very sad about a lot of things. I felt sad when we had to come back home to our house fully prepared for our baby, with our bassinet put together, with his room together, with everything put together, and no baby. That's probably one of the worst experiences ever. I felt bad getting into the car and not even getting to use the car seat. I felt bad leaving the hospital without our baby. I felt terrible about literally every single thing and just felt so bad that we just didn't get that normal labor experience. We didn't get our family or our friends coming to visit the baby in the hospital, getting to take care of our baby in the hospital like normal people get to do. We just kind of had to go and visit our baby, and he was sedated and fully asleep on a bed, and then finally he started to gain his strength back up, but I still didn't fully feel like he was our baby because sometimes we did have to go back home, be away from the hospital. I felt like nurses got more time with the baby than us. I also didn't really know how, like we were first time parents and everything just felt very uncomfortable, but now he's home with us. We're doing great. I'm so happy that he is here now, and after this whole process, it just makes me love him and cherish every moment that we have together even more. Me and Kevin even say sometimes we can't believe that that's the same baby that was just like laying in the hospital bed. He's now just like at our house and he's just perfectly healthy. He's breathing fine. It's still crazy to this day. Okay, I'm yapping a lot in this video. I know it's probably gonna be super long, but I want to thank you guys so much for watching today's video and listening to me talk about my very traumatic labor experience. If you guys have a labor experience, or if you guys have something crazy that happened to you, please leave it down below in the comments. I like to read y'all's comments and see things that, you know, we relate on, or just y'all's experience with things. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.